Hi, I'm actor Ian Champion, and welcome to History of Horror Cinema, my personal podcast tour of the good, bad, and the ugly of horror movie history. If you like what you hear, please don't forget to hit subscribe. The Lodger, 1927. 1927 was the year that a young English director by the name of Alfred Hitchcock made his name with this suspenseful thriller with horror undertones for the British studio Gainsborough Pictures. Based on a story by Marie Belloc Lowndes and a play she co-wrote, Who Is He?, it was inspired by the London hunt for Jack the Ripper. Though only a young man, Hitchcock's work already reflected the guidance of two vital people in his life. The first and longest association was with his wife Alma, who as Alma Revell was already an established editor and assistant director at the Islington studio when Alfred started working there. She was highly skilled and her later husband's creative superior in many ways. She would say of editing, "The art of cutting is art indeed, with a capital A, and is of far greater importance than is generally acknowledged." Hitchcock would always consider her judgment and standards on script quality, casting, and other factors of his films. The other person he credited was esteemed producer Michael Balcon, his boss at Gainsborough Pictures, under whose name The Lodger was made. Balcon had changed the name from the former Islington Studios after buying it out. Balcon is really the man responsible for Hitchcock, the director generously acknowledged to Peter Bogdanovich. The young studio worker had never originally intended to become a director. He had quietly progressed through experience as script writer, then art director, and production designer for several movies until the studio's director decided he no longer wanted him. Balcon shrewdly realized that they should not let go of Hitchcock's talent, and it was he who suggested the young man move into direction. Hitchcock persuaded Balcon to allow him to make The Lodger, as he had grown up in Jack the Ripper's hunting ground in London, and been born a mere decade after the reign of terror of the man acknowledged as the world's first serial killer. The Lodger was the director's third film, after The Pleasure Garden and The Mountain Eagle, yet it was the first to establish the Hitchcock brand as the Master of Suspense that would later become so familiar. It was an early showcase for his themes such as the blonde woman in peril, a favorite female type for him. In the documentary The Sound of Silence, critic Richard Schickel remembers an off-camera remark of Hitchcock's where he furtively said of the blonde archetype, "They're very cool and elegant. You've got to think they'd be pretty hot if they were left to their own devices." Other Hitchcock preoccupations abound in The Lodger, an innocent, wrongly accused man looking to clear his name, and novel stylistic touches. The plot centers around a London in the grip of a serial killer who preys on blonde women and has just claimed his seventh victim. All that is known about him from a surviving female witness is that the bottom half of his face is obscured by a scarf, and that he leaves a note at the scene of each crime with the name The Avenger within a triangle. Daisy Bunting, June Tripp, is a young blonde model whose parents have a room to let, and a policeman boyfriend, Joe, Malcolm Keane. One night, a handsome, enigmatic young man, Jonathan Drew, answers the family's advert. He is scarfed like the killer in the newspaper, and bears a haunted, faraway look in his eyes. Played by the handsome 1920s matinee idol Ivor Novello, a hugely popular musical songwriter-actor. The casting is crucial in not allowing us to make an obvious guess as to his secret identity. Later, however, Hitchcock admitted to Bogdanovich that having Novello in the part was probably a mistake, in that, whilst confusing an audience's expectations, there was much public image pressure to ensure that ultimately the role had to be softened to avoid offending the actor's huge fan base. Nevertheless, Hitchcock builds the tension well, sowing the seeds of suspicion visually with tricks like a glass ceiling, so the parents can look up to see him pacing up and down in his room. There is also the delicious shot of the disembodied hand spiraling down the staircase. Drew continually appears mournful and distracted, and he attracts Daisy, much to Joe's annoyance, especially when the cop is put on the murder case. When Drew goes out late one night, the next morning, another nearby murder victim has been found. As Daisy and Jonathan grow closer, she breaks off her relationship with Joe. The police gradually closed their net nearer to the lodging house, the suspense building to fever pitch on Joe demanding Drew's cupboard be unlocked to reveal a surgeon-style bag containing a gun, a map detailing the homicide sites, and a beautiful blonde woman's photo. The power of the intertitle, "I arrest you on a charge of murder," is delivered with dramatic force and a portentous sting from the score. This accusation plays into what we know of another Hitchcock grisly fascination, the intimidating authority of the law. This was helped by the famous story the director told many times of his father's response to a minor bit of his son's troublemaking as a little boy. He was sent to the local police station with a note meant for the duty officer, who, upon reading it, locked young Alfred in a cell for what must have been a frightening, if brief, 5 minutes. "That's what we do to naughty little boys," the officer told him. Back to the plot, and Drew gives away nothing except anger and regret. His appears to be an open and shut case, not helped by Drew escaping out of the front door. Daisy catches up with him, where he breaks down and confesses that the woman in the photo was his sister, the Avenger's first victim, at a dance Drew had attended with her. On his mother's deathbed, she made him swear to never stop till the killer is caught. Daisy and Drew cover his handcuffs in a local pub, but when the locals become suspicious, they pursue the couple, believing him to be the Avenger. Joe discovers, whilst in official pursuit himself, that they have just apprehended the real killer, so Drew is innocent after all. Horrified, he sets out to stop the growing vigilante mob from killing Drew by mistake, and manages to get to him just in time as he hangs bloodied but alive from a railing, in what must have been deliberate Christ-like crucifixion imagery. Allegedly, Hitchcock himself is one of the vigilante mob baying for the blood of the young man. This is certainly possible, as by now he had begun his regular appearances in his own films, as much for practicality as ego. In his later Bogdanovich interview, he blithely reasoned, "In a scene of that kind, we didn't even bother to engage actors." Aside from the unsatisfying quick resolution in the murder hunt, the true culprit of which is unshown at the director's suggestion, The Lodger is an entertaining thriller where Hitchcock plays with our preconceptions and circumstantial evidence for the first time. The influence of contemporary German expressionist directors like F.W. Murnau and Fritz Lang can be seen in The Lodger's moody lighting and Novello's performance. This is no coincidence, as Hitchcock had the good fortune to be invited over to Germany to observe both directors at work, including Murnau on the set of 1924's The Last Laugh, just 2 years after he thrilled the world with the classic expressionist horror Nosferatu, which I covered in episode 32. Despite its evident quality, The Lodger almost didn't see the light of day. The film incurred the enmity of 2 studio men of some power who attempted to block its release. Director Graham Cutts, under whom Hitchcock had worked as assistant director, scenic artist, and co-screenwriter, and C.M. Wolfe, who controlled the studio's film distribution. The Sound of Silence recounts that Wolfe blamed Hitchcock for the failure of their earlier film The White Shadow in 1924, which had been expected to be a top moneymaker. Its failure was attributed to pretentious Hitchcock touches, according to his 2 enemies. Once again, Hitchcock's guardian angel Michael Balcon came to the rescue. He brought in esteemed editor Ivor Montague to help shape the finished cut into a version that proved its creator's instincts were very much aligned to public tastes. The Lodger proved to be a fascinating calling card to audiences for Alfred Hitchcock, an emerging talent who would make his way to Hollywood and a stellar reputation for decades to come, and one of the first directors whose style would make him as much of a household name as the talent on screen. Thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, please don't forget to hit subscribe.